Beauregard.
Hi.
How are you doing in Montreal?
Doing great.
Thank you for accepting this interview over Skype. I know this is not the same than doing it in person. I'm getting quite used to those interviews in person now, but I really appreciate you taking the time to speak of very important topics, especially right now, that bring scientific proof to this paradigm shift, to the bringing evidence that we are capable of much, much more than science is currently, or at least current science, has approved, accepted, made us think. And there's a lot of people, I think, waking up to other realities. There's some things as people living in our everyday life that are quite not disturbing, but that makes us think that something else is possible. And I really thank you for all the research that you do as part of being an associate researcher at the University of Montreal, and because this is bringing tangible proof that something else is possible. A lot more is possible. We're going to speak about neuroplasticity, near-death experience, the placebo effect, and all those really awesome things. I would love to start with you, because I know we spoke about it in our last interview, because you're also the author of Spiritual Brain. Your latest book, this one that just came out, is Brain Wars. The scientific battle over the existence of the mind and the proof that will change the way we live our lives. So tell us, what are the facts that the current science is really obsolete, limited, and maybe even wrong? How do you actually prove that? How do we put that?
Okay. In neuroscience, mainstream neuroscience, let's say, there's a belief, a central belief that what we call mind and consciousness, higher mental functions, they are simply reducible to what's going on in the brain electrically and chemically. So they are byproducts, and they are powerless. So I'm reviewing in Brain Wars various lines of evidence showing that this is not true at all. And regarding the relationship between mind and brain, it seems to be increasingly clear that it's not the brain that is producing mind and consciousness. It's more mind and consciousness are, of course, related to brain activity under normal circumstances, but there's an avenue of research which provides a lot of evidence showing that the old views are not true at all. So, for instance, during the last decade, there have been, I believe, 5 different studies of people who have experienced higher mental functions like perception, memory, emotions, self-awareness, while they were in a state of cardiac arrest. Mm-hmm. And this is very important because when there's a cardiac arrest, the brain will cease functioning within usually 10 to 20 seconds. So if you're using, for instance, an electroencephalogram or EEG to measure electrical activity in the brain, you will see that following the cardiac arrest, the EEG becomes flat. So the central belief in neuroscience in that such a state, complex mental functions are not possible at all. Yet we have now over 100 cases documented of people who, in a state of cardiac arrest, have been able to experience complex mental functions that are called usually near-death experience. So, for instance, some of these patients have been able to describe very accurately details about the reanimation procedure that was going on while they were clinically dead. Others have been able to provide very accurate information regarding dialogues exchanged between nurses and medical doctors or surgeons, and so on and so forth. And this strongly suggests that the brain does not produce mind and consciousness, that you cannot reduce complex mental functions strictly to electrical and chemical activity in the brain. They are associated normally when you're alive, but they cannot be reduced to these electrical and chemical processes. So this is a major revolution in neuroscience. Mm-hmm. And of course, because we've been believing that for the last few hundred years that the brain was producing mental functions, mind, consciousness, of course, to promote this view evokes a lot of resistance from several neuroscientists and other scientists as well. But we have to remember that nearly 100 years ago, physicists or physics went into a period of revolution. We passed from classical physics to quantum physics, and in quantum physics, the physicists realized back then that their consciousness was able to influence the measurements that they were doing at the microphysical level, at the level of either subatomic particles or waves. And this also indicated that what we call mind and consciousness are not localized within our brains and our body. They are non-local, if you will, because they can transcend the boundaries of the body, the physical body. The physicists do not have any problem with my conclusion, but it's more difficult for people still involved in the biomedical field because most of these people, of these researchers in biomedical field, are not aware of the conclusions of quantum physics.
So what is then for you the relationship between the mind and the brain? How do you explain that we have such an experience, or people are experiencing something when the brain is not connected, not functioning?
Well, it seems that the brain normally acts as a sort of reducing valve or a filter, and so it's like a radio station. It will allow you, under normal circumstances, to focus only on very restricted frequency ranges. But when you alter electrical and chemical activity in your brain, and you can do that in many different ways, meditation, prayer, contemplation, physical exercise also, then you change what's going on in the brain, and the filter function of the brain is altered, and you can have access to other types of experience. Of course, the most extreme form of alteration of the filter function of the brain is a near death or a clinical death, because now there's not any brain activity that is detectable. And in that state, it's like if the brain is releasing mind and consciousness. Mind and consciousness open up, and you can have access in such states to different realms of reality in a much greater way compared to, let's say, only if you are doing prayer or physical exercise. It's more extreme.
I guess one of the blockages within science is also the strong limiting belief and the association that there is also with that kind of talk and topic. Often it was associated, and a lot of it seems intangible and so far away from science. But now we're seeing that it's being bridged, right?
Yes, and it's been done a century ago in physics. They're dealing with non-physical entities a lot. It's been accepted in physics, but it's not accepted yet totally in biology, in medicine. Neuroscience is one subdiscipline of biology. But yes, it's and also in science, we have assumptions, philosophical beliefs that have been around for now a few centuries, like this materialist assumption that everything in the universe is composed of material particles and fields, for instance. Mm-hmm. And this is still around in biology and in medicine, even though physics has demonstrated that it was not valid at all, that the universe is material only because of an illusion created by our senses. You see?
Yeah, it must be quite a tough challenge within the scientific world to prove such a thing. But you're really bringing some big proof there. How are you actually explaining that the belief and the expectations are so powerful? I mean, that seems to me like a proof, because how do you measure that? How do you bring that to the scientist?
A placebo effect is based on the beliefs and expectations about a false treatment, a treatment that is not efficient from a medical point of view. And during the last decade, there have been a number of brain imaging studies that have been done showing that such placebo treatment can be very powerful. They can change activity in the brain and also in the physiological systems connected to the brain, for instance, the immune system, the endocrine system. And if you believe that beliefs and expectations are simply reducible to electrical and chemical activity, you have a hard time being able to understand or to explain the placebo phenomenon. But if you realize that what's going on at the mental level, at the mind level, can change the activity of the brain, then this phenomenon can be explained. I have a good example. This is a study that has been done a few years ago in Vancouver at the University of British Columbia. It's been done by a group of researchers involved in research about Parkinson's disease. In Parkinson's disease, there's degradation or destruction of the nerve cells or neurons that are producing a chemical messenger that is called dopamine. Dopamine is the key chemical messenger involved in motor function. So in their study, they gave patients who were suffering from a severe form of Parkinson's disease, actually their level of destruction of their neurons producing dopamine was between 75 to 80%. So their cases were quite severe. And so those patients who most believe in the fake treatment, actually it was, I think, distilled water, they started to produce and release dopamine in their brains at a level that is comparable to young, normal people. And this was quite a dramatic effect. And in parallel, they experienced a marked improvement in terms of their clinical symptoms. So they started being able to move much better. Cognitively, they were sharper also. And this effect lasted for a certain period of time. And so this shows very convincingly that what you believe and what you expect for can dramatically alter chemical activity in your brain.
I love hearing this, because it really shows how just amazing we are, and that we're most likely capable of self-healing, of healing ourselves through our thoughts. So our thoughts are actually can impact our mental state, our just projecting health, well-being. We can heal ourselves that way without, I guess, dropping the whole science, but...
Yes, there are other studies indicating that, for instance, your emotions and also your beliefs can greatly influence what's happening in your immune system. So it's a relatively new discipline that is called Psychoneuroimmunology. This discipline appeared about 30 years ago, and it really shows that what's going on at the mind level influence brain activity. And the brain is connected to all the other main physiological systems in the brain, like the immune system or the endocrine system. So it's possible. We have cases of people who've been able to, make their cancer, for instance, disappear, regress, in a very dramatic fashion. And on the other hand, you also have cases of people who entertain very negative beliefs and thoughts, and who, because of this, you will see in these people dramatic suppression of their immunity. And in such cases, people are not able to fight severe diseases. There are also cases of people who, because of medical mistakes, thought that they were suffering from cancer, but they were not. And some of these people actually died
How do
because
you
of their
call this?
beliefs.
How do you call the opposite of the placebo effect?
It's called, yeah, it's called a nocebo effect. So it's exactly the reverse of the placebo phenomenon.
Is the evil twin.
The evil twin, yes.
So, I mean, let's talk of neuroplasticity, because then are you saying that if we have those belief system and we see ourselves healing, is our brain rewiring in a certain way so that we can receive, and I don't know if you'd talk about frequencies, but other type of information and things, so that we can actually find,
Yes.
we are finding inside of us, and I guess connected to something bigger, find the way to heal?
Yes, absolutely.
How does this, tell us about the process, how you see the process of healing? How would that work in the brain and with the consciousness, and what are the different dynamics?
Well, we don't have a good or solid theory yet about these things, but we have some insights and hypotheses. So it seems that there's a sort of transduction from the mind and the consciousness level to the brain. So the information is going on. It can be related to your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotional feelings, and so on and so forth. This is transduced electrically and chemically in certain portions of your brain. The brain is a very complex organ that is connected to all the main physiological systems in the body. We already talked about this. For instance, the immune system, the endocrine system. So we are, and we have in the body a giant psychosomatic network, if you will. And this is why changes in terms of your thoughts or your beliefs can even influence what's going on now. Now there's even evidence that it can influence gene expression. So some genes can be turned on, other genes can be turned off as a function of what you entertain at the mind level. This is a new discipline. It's called epigenetics. I think you already discussed these ideas with Dr. Lipton.
Yes.
And so you can see the interaction in terms of a sort of informational highway in the body, but it's also the information that is processed at the mind level, even at unconscious levels, does have also an effect in the physical world outside of the confines of your body and your brain. So really we can talk in terms of coupling between different levels of information. So more concretely, for instance, a certain type of emotional feelings can be converted into certain molecular activity in your body, for instance, or it will alter or even favor the production of certain chemical messengers in your brain.
Do you personally think we right now it is urgent that our species evolves and start opening up the and putting down those limitations so we can really not survive but really thrive?
Absolutely, this is very critical at this juncture of the history of the human species. It's very important for people to realize that they are not biological robots totally determined by their genes, their neurons, their chemical messengers. That on the contrary, they have a great, they are very powerful. They can really influence a lot what's going on in their brain and body, and they can also access information and influence processes in the universe outside of their body. This is critical, I think, in terms of our future evolution, to realize that.
And it seems to me that we can all be geniuses in our life. Like it seems like before it was limited to some people, and we would intelligence would be seen as one thing, but now we're seeing that emotional intelligence, and there's some people that have ways to be, I guess, to be telepathic, to share information, remote viewing. I mean, all of those are coming.
Yes.
On the front line, and this is, as you say, this is like we're evolving out of being robots. But again, we're going back then to quantum physics that says that it depends on the observer as well. So some people, it's hard to transition from seeing life a certain way to seeing it in a quantum way and understanding that it's so much bigger than that. I mean, you must meet so many hard-headed people. How do you deal with that?
That's right. Well, you know, when you're a pioneer in your own field, that's part of the deal. You know,
Yes.
it's normal. You know, it's I accept that because I think now there are increasing evidence showing that this new scientific worldview that I'm presenting is brain wars is true, and that it's vital for people to realize that, and also to measure the implications of this new worldview. That, you know, it's a small problem, you know, to encounter other scientist colleagues that do not share, you know, my view. You know, it's not really a big problem.
No. Well, thank you for writing Brain Wars, so we can definitely look at all the details and the different evidence. And I really enjoyed reading it. And thank you for your work. I really look forward to doing this in person. In
Yes,
Montreal, I'll have to come to Montreal. That's fine.
or in Europe.
Or in Europe, yes. Thank you so much, Mario,
Thanks.
for this moment. Thank you.